The weeks that followed only deepened my suspicion. I watched poor Mrs. Strace wither into illness and death, while Lavinia returned more radiant than ever, her laughter sharper, her hold on Mother stronger. I could no longer ignore the truth, nor endure her mocking gaze. One night, I crept into her room and stole the brooch from her blouse, holding it in my fist, as though it were proof of everything I had feared. Hours passed before I forced myself to look. Slowly I unclenched my fist, revealing the brooch in the early morning light. It seemed changed. The rose's dark green hues and surrounding leaves seemed different, a subtle alteration. The green seemed richer, more aligned to my tastes. I stared into those lifelike petals, tracing the delicate lines of their carving. The longer I stared, the more I recalled Aunt Lavinia's words. She had claimed the rose drew life from others, stealing their vitality to sustain her. She made light of it afterwards, but there had been a seriousness in her tone, and a glint in her eye while she delighted in frightening me. I hated how she'd grown more secure in her power over me, and how Mother had fallen deeper into her spell. With a cry of rage, I slung the brooch across the room, watching it strike the wall with a sharp, gratifying slap. Many hours passed before I got out of bed to retrieve it. Half in shadow, the brooch lay on the carpet, the domed glass marred by a hairline crack. I picked it up and placed it in my pocket, feeling guilty about disfiguring something so beautiful. Yet I was also overwhelmed with a feeling of triumph, knowing that the brooch was also infallible. When I saw Aunt Lavinia later that day, she wasn't the cold, calculating woman I'd grown to despise. Instead, she looked dishevelled and tired, a sourness to her breath, while she and Mother hurried past me in the hallway. "Where did you have it last?" Mother kept asking, to which Aunt Lavinia replied, "I've already told you, pinned to my blouse, when I undressed for bed." They searched the house for hours, wandering from room to room, lifting cushions and opening drawers. During a sudden moment of silence, my heart thudded in my chest. Fearing they'd discovered my hiding place, I sensed someone watching me, and as I looked up from my book, I saw Aunt Lavinia standing in the doorway. "You haven't seen my brooch by any chance?" she said. The question lingered, while I held her gaze with my own. "No." "That's strange. You were always so fascinated by it." Something dark settled in her eyes. "I thought you might know where it is." I fought the urge to look away. "I don't know anything about it." She stood in silence, her eyes never leaving mine. Then, with a sigh, she stepped closer. "Such unique, beautiful things, such as my brooch, aren't easily misplaced. But having said that, such things often disappear when someone wants them to, especially when jealousy and anger compels them." I don't know what you mean," I said, my voice wavering. Her cold hand rested on my shoulder. "Oh, I think you do. The brooch has a way of finding those who need it. I didn't take it. Perhaps. But you've always been so curious about it, so drawn to it." "Oh, well, perhaps it'll turn up. Things like these often show up in the strangest places. Don't you think?" Before I could answer, Mother, flushed and anxious, stood behind her. She gave me a pleading look. "Can you help us, please? We've looked everywhere." Aunt Lavinia dismissed the comment with a wave of her hand. "It's no use, it's gone. It's just a brooch." "It's not just any brooch, though, is it, Lavinia?" Mother said. "You cherish it." She gave me another pleading look. "Could you check your room again?" "No," I said with a sigh. "I told you, I don't have it." I felt the coldness of Aunt Lavinia's gaze. No, of course you don't." I avoided Aunt Lavinia for days afterwards, while the house and everyone in it brooded in an uncomfortable silence. I enjoyed the quiet, relishing it before the return of that unbearable laughter. Yet silence prevailed, and with it came an atmosphere of prolonged gloom. Each night, I clutched the brooch beneath my pillow, the streetlights casting long shadows across my room. The noises were slight at first. A faint breath, the floorboards shifting beneath someone's weight. Each night, I heard the same creak outside my door, sensing something or someone standing there, listening. I never dared to open it. Instead, I retreated beneath the quilt, pressing the brooch into my fist. In those moments, the brooch felt heavier, its weight pulling me deeper into the bed, anchoring me to the darkness. Not only the sounds unsettled me, but the shadows too. I'd catch glimpses of them, elongated, moving in ways they shouldn't. And sometimes I'd see a woman's silhouette, standing by the wardrobe. Things were no better in the rational light of day. Even though the brooch sat hidden in my secret place, it always felt near me. A strange smell lingered, a floral scent that intensified whenever I found myself alone. At first I assumed it to be perfume, one of Aunt Lavinia's more heady fragrances. Yet no matter how often I opened the window or sprayed the room with air freshener, the smell remained. It grew more unpleasant with time, reminding me of flowers left too long in a vase, wilting and decaying, their once sweet fragrance tinged with rot. Aunt Lavinia's illness came as no surprise to me. Mother took little notice at first, putting it down to the inclement weather and a bout of mild flu. She tended to Aunt Lavinia day and night, often skipping meals and depriving herself of sleep, growing close to hysteria as my aunt's condition worsened. Dr. Hargreaves spent only minutes with Aunt Lavinia before admitting her to the hospital. We followed in a taxi, while the ambulance's siren blared off into the distance. I'd buried any feelings of guilt up until then. Yet Aunt Lavinia's imminent demise made my crimes all the more real. And slipping my hand into my pocket, I brushed my fingers across the brooch, death suddenly becoming more tangible. Not being next of kin, we were confined to the waiting area, a stuffy halogen-lit room with armless plastic chairs arranged in haphazard rows. I sat at the far side, gazing out the window, debating whether to confess my sins and tell the doctors that Aunt Lavinia would recover once the brooch was returned to her. Mother paced the room, turning expectantly to every swish of the door or the sound of hurried steps. They made us wait until late evening before allowing us to see her. The consultant told Mother they had given her a dose of antibiotics and would run more tests in the morning. Aunt Lavinia needed rest, and we should restrict our visit to 10 minutes at the most. On stepping into the ward, I was struck by the heady smell of cooked food and antiseptic. Aunt Lavinia's bed stood at the far end, and I barely recognized the frail woman lying in it. This wasn't the Aunt Lavinia I knew. No, a smaller, frail imposter had replaced her. Her once dark hair was streaked with grey, and no hint of light shone in her dull, sunken eyes. As we stood at the foot of her bed, the knot in my stomach tightened. "How are you feeling, Lavinia?" Mother asked, although you only had to look at her to know the answer. Aunt Lavinia smiled weakly. "Oh, you know, still here, I suppose?" Mother gave an anxious laugh. "Of course you are. You'll be out of here soon." Aunt Lavinia tried to answer, but her hoarse reply quickly became a violent, relentless cough. Mother called for the nurse, and when none came, she rushed into the corridor. "I shan't be a minute. Give your aunt some water." I felt the other patients and visitors' watchful eyes upon me while pouring the water into the glass. I offered it to Aunt Lavinia. She waved it away with her hand. "I'm fine," she said, her coughing easing. "Don't stand there gawping. Help me to sit up." I did as she asked, tilting her forward and adjusting her pillows. She laid her head down and sighed. "Oh, your mother's so reactionary. It's no wonder you're like this." She closed her eyes and rested a hand on her chest. I glanced at the adjacent corridor and, knowing Mother would soon return, took the brooch from my pocket and placed it on the bed. "Sorry, Aunt Lavinia," I whispered. I was angry." She said nothing at first, and I don't know what unsettled me more, the tears in her eyes or the mockery in her smile. "Oh, what a silly boy you are. That brooch can never truly be yours. You're too weak-willed, needy, like your father." Any pity I had for her vanished in a breath. I stared into those cruel dark eyes, knowing even in her weakest hour she remained conniving and spiteful. Mother returned with the nurse before I got a chance to reply. Not that I needed words. Slyly placing the brooch back into my pocket was my only answer. I'm unsure if Aunt Lavinia ever fully recovered. All I know is that her and Mother's friendship grew strained. Aunt Lavinia quickly lost her appeal. She grew bitter and angry. Her beauty waned, and as the weeks passed, Mother began to lose interest, finding Lavinia's dark moods and surliness intolerable. Lavinia stopped visiting us after a while. Not that Mother cared. As always, she found someone new to depend upon. Mother forgot her soon enough, and we never spoke of her again. For years I told myself it had all been a dream, a child's vivid imagination. Yet the memory never left me. Neither did the brooch. It's with me still, wrapped in a silk handkerchief at the bottom of a hidden drawer. The rose gleams brightly, as it did on the first day I saw it, green and lush, unscathed by time. Sometimes, when it catches the light, I think I see something stirring within the glass. I know I should have aged more than I have. It's been years since Mother's passing. But the lines on my face remain absent. I know the price Lavinia paid. How she withered once the brooch abandoned her. But I can't bring myself to let it go. It belongs to me now. Or perhaps, like Aunt Lavinia, I belong to it. If you've ever had something strange happen to you that you can't explain, let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this one, subscribing helps keep them going.